Hello and welcome to another InstaForex daily market update. For today, I decided to cover British pound versus US dollar. I will speak about gold market, crude oil, Bitcoin versus US dollar, and dollar index. I will start with the British pound versus US dollar first. What we have here is that we have four charts, and we have the faster time frames on the upper side, and on the lower side we have a lower time frames. So what we can see here is that, as I already spoke in my previous updates, the pound actually had this big rejection around 1.2690, and also it reconfirmed the downside breakout of the trading range, which is a very strong confirmation for the short term, even mid-term downside development on this currency pair. If we take a look, for example, hourly time frame, which is here at the top right corner, we can see here that there was a breakout of this more like a triangle, but we call this like a bear flag pattern, and there was a downside breakout this morning, which is another confirmation for that this downside momentum is very strong, and we have a downside continuation. Now, the downside objectives that I'm observing based on this downside scenario is the downside objectives are set at 1.2520, 1.2500, and 1.2455. So I don't see any bigger sign of a reversal or something. So the downside scenario is more likely to develop on this currency pair. Now, speaking of the gold market. Again, there was a very similar to the pound dollar. We had a breakout of this trading range, the rejection of the 10, 20, and 50-day moving average in the daily time frame. But what we can see here is that the hourly time frame is different compared to the pound dollar in the 5 minutes. So we can see here some kind of early morning demand for the gold, but so far it's still in the very defined trading range. And I'll just take this rectangle and just show you that this is just the one consolidation that is happening. So in case the downside, like a re-break of 1984, the daily time frame also had this more like a doji candle just around this rising moving average. So, you know, can this hold or not? Can we see maybe some kind of the bigger retracement or the retracement based on this downswing? At this point, it's hard to say, but it's a very risky under this environment where we have the breakdown of the trading range and potential for the further downside continuation. So still, I will watch for the downside scenario like a primary scenario, and potentially after this rally or maybe the correction and potential downside re-break, there can be a nice potential for the further downside movement towards the 1974 mark. You can also see that on the weekly that we had like a few weeks of consolidation and then this downside breakout. Now, speaking of the crude oil, what we have here, we had basically a strong rejection and outside the down day yesterday. You can see here on the bottom left corner, there was an attempt for the market to go higher, and then a strong rejection all the way down towards the 76.44. That's a strong reversal, and we can see today that the moving averages, and we can see that market sloping to the downside on hourly, and there was a potential for the downside movement today on the crude oil. The downside objectives are set at 75.55, and we also have, let's say, the next very important pivot. I mean, the very important pivot based on the daily time frame is at 73.70 mark. So weekly time frame also, there was a 20 and 40 week. There was a rejection on the weekly time frame. So far, based on the yesterday's activity and today so far, there is likely scenarios for the further downside development. Now, speaking of the Bitcoin versus US dollar, actually we can see that market reached our upside objective at 52,000, and basically now it seems like it's making the doji candle, or we see some hesitation for the market to continue higher. Obviously, weekly is on the strong rally after the breakout of this multi-week consolidation, but I just need to mention here that this is a very important weekly pivot where we had this rejection. So because if you can see here, we have lots of this swing high and rejection, and this major consolidation after this initial drop. So this 52,000 is a quite important pivot mark, and only if we can break and hold and make some continuation pattern above the 52,000, then there is a chance for the 53,000, 54,000 to be on the test. But if not, then there is a chance for rejection and pullback of this 52,000 mark. We can see, for example, by watching the 5-minute time frame, that we started to build the lower highs and lower lows. So this may be the sign of some at least pullback, maybe towards the 51,000 or even 50,500. So pay attention to this 52,000 mark and carefully watch for the price action around this level to confirm further direction. And speaking of the dollar index, so what happened here is that we this week market traded and took the pin bar high at 104.60. Now we can see the pullback, or if, for example, if I go to the 4-hour time frame, you'll see the very more like a bull flag situation just around the swing highs. So this may be the point and a very strong and interesting support in the rising market in the short term, where the upside may resume. So this area at 104.60 is a quite important pivot level. The next one will be around 104.45. If this will be like bull flag, which it seems like it's building at this point, we just need to start to build some higher highs and higher lows on the lower time frames. But at this point, if this is the bull flag and we start to build, so there is potential for retest of 104.97 and maybe even for the market to go higher towards the next important pivots towards 105.93. That'll be all for this update, guys. I hope that you did enjoy. Have a good trading day and speak to you from tomorrow morning.